Hello, welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all. But sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Marilyn Shannon, and welcome to the Health In Show. We are so happy you're here today. We have a wonderful show in store, but before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that this is your show. You have an open invitation to participate, and we want you to do that. So please feel free to put your name, nickname, whatever you like, sign into our chat. You can communicate with us there. You can ask questions, comment, whatever you like. You can also call into the studio at 919-518-9773. And you can also come in on Skype. That would be computers, that's plural, then the number 2K voice. Into Skype, that will be voice, not video. And we welcome you to come in and, open up today. Be curious. Today is going to be a great day. We have lots to talk about, and hopefully, I know, you will be inspired by something that is said today that you're going to have a question about. You should. So please feel free to join us. So let me introduce and welcome our other hosts to you today. So we have Deepak. Hey, Deepak.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Marlene, and welcome, Angie. Thank you so much for joining us at the biggest platform of health from SWC. So welcome all.
Thank you, Deepak. And then we have Priti.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well whichever part of the world you are. And I'm so excited to talk to all of you. Angie, very, very welcome.
And then we have Uta.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. We have a very special guest with us today. It's Angie Litvinoff, a shamanic homeopath and ceremonialist. And she is going to talk to us today about the shamanic journey in relation to physical and emotional well-being. Hello, Angie. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here. Marilyn, Deepak, Priti, Uta, and everybody who's joining us today. Yes, it's wonderful to be here. I'm, as Uta mentioned, I'm a shamanic homeopath, which means that the two things have merged together for me. In fact, my formal training is as a shamanic homeopath. I went to the School of Shamanic Homeopathy, and incorporates homeopathy and shamanic practices for well-being on many levels.
So I have one question, but just as we get started. For many people, they may not understand what being a shaman means. Mm-hmm. So can you just tell us a little bit about that first, and then help link what that combination looks like between being a shaman and being a homeopath?
Yes, of course, and it's a really excellent and brilliant question, in fact, because it's in fact something that is might be surprising to hear. It's a very practical thing. Being a shaman, or as actually, this is what people started to call me with time, is somebody who holds a real kind of balance between one world and another. So is able to really work in a multifaceted way with medicines, which aid people and allow them to look at really deep underlying issues that are essentially to do with soul. And of course, this manifests in many areas: emotional, physical, and spiritual. So the approach is to really work very in depth with an individual to establish what the source of the issue or the ailment is, and really look at it on a soul level. So the way that they are able to understand and comprehend what is happening to them at that time within this lifetime, and see it in a very wide context about how they fit in with the world around them. So it gives them a grounding, and they're able to come back and be earthed and really live and interact and engage with their environment more fully. And this is done by helping people to merge with their environment more. So it's helping people to understand their relationship to life itself and to their environment, where they live. That could be their community, but also the relationship they have and the social responsibility they have to their immediate environment, how we interact, the consequences of our actions with regards to, our relationship to food, our relationship to nature, and the way that we engage with it.
So can anybody be a shaman?
I would say no. It's it's a very I think it's very trendy at the moment, and it's for me, I would say it's not for everyone. It's generally the people that stick it out and are in it for the long haul are people who've had a lot of personal experiences that have taken them to some places where, let's say, they have a great understanding of some very difficult situations in other people, because they've been able to experience that themselves. And so it's not a comfortable place, but it's often the place where we grow a level of understanding about our own experiences, and addressing the things that have imposed limits on us as individuals. And that's not, it's beyond, I'm a ceremonialist as well, so it's beyond gestures. It's about really going deep and looking at things and sitting with the discomfort at times in order to really understand the causes.
So
Well, I have plenty of questions, but I was going to turn it over to you. Go ahead.
So how does that connect? How do you connect the shamanism to homeopathy?
Right.
Homeopathy being an energetic medicine practice, and shamanism taking you deep into your ancestral being and soul.
Yeah, wonderful. I love talking to you guys. The relationship is so seamless, because the homeopathy and the vibrational medicine that we're using, and the messages essentially from whatever the medicine is made of, they're messages. They are instructions. Yeah. And so in shamanism, you're looking at the spirit of the medicine, whatever the medicine is. So the medicine can be a herb, which has its own energy. It will be a vibrational medicine, and it may also involve, healing. It will also involve, looking at how we engage with, lifestyle. It will, it's so holistic. But actually, with the homeopathy itself, it's actually a huge support for and in many ways a conduit, so that as people address the changes they're going through at whatever level they're going, whether it's physical or emotional, or it's always bigger than that, isn't it? It's generally both. That they're able to be fully supported within this process with homeopathy, which really addresses the state of being that they are currently experiencing. And it's for me, it's fascinating and humbling and beautiful and exciting, and it never ceases to blow my mind how the medicine is so full of messages in so many different ways, that yes, we can use it for one thing, but then at the same time use it for so many other things, and that this in itself helps to aid the individual to get to a place of well-being. And the shamanism is a tool to support that. And for me, I just feel like I've struck gold with becoming a homeopath, literally, like spiritually, because it's the gem, as so it's such a wonderful healing aid for them through, to facilitate, to help, to support them through this process. It's I couldn't imagine not using it. You know, I can't imagine life without it, really, with regards to that. So that every situation that you know, that individual, you know, presents with, you know, you, of course, you match, you know, you match them, you know, closely, and that there will be something very much in terms of how they resonate with underlying themes and challenges, which will match that medicine, that remedy, or that combination. You know, and so working very closely and sensitively as the individual progresses, and the homeopathy is very much part of that.
So
go on.
I mean, so Angie, if I understand you right, your shamanic practice or consultation, when you know, when your client is in that process leads you, opens up the state of that individual, which helps you find the right homeopathic remedy, which you could say is a consultation or a case taking, what a typical homeopath would do otherwise. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I still use the, you know, the very good case taking methods that, you know, we're all familiar with. And I also, you know, really see where they want to be, where they actually want to be. So they have a level of accountability from the beginning, and we're able to work to a realistic aim for them, where they are very much part of that process. And this has been through after many years, you know, that this is what works, you know, for my practice, and that the healing aspect of it is looking at the what is held within the cells, what is held within the cellular memory, and what is at the root and at the very heart of what it is that ails them the most. And so looking at themes that are very specific, in order to address limits that they have experienced, blocks that are holding them back. And for this, you know, this is where the homeopathy, you know, sort of comes in. And so I'm looking at the psycho-spiritual aspect. I work very closely with tissue sorts as well, and looking at the psycho-spiritual nature of the remedies in order to support them through that change.
Can you just do me a favor and just give everyone an idea of what a shaman, what that actually looks like? Not just being a shaman and what it does, but what does, you know, shamanism look like? What is you mentioned a ceremony. You know, sometimes I've thought about shamans as being medicine people.
Yeah.
You know, just give us a picture of an example so people can understand what that looks like, and then you're taking them, it's like a tunnel, I think. So
so starting from the very outside, it's looking at putting us in a context of a wheel of the year. So every aspect of the year has got an energy. So we divide that into 4 or 8 parts, where, just out of simplicity, we'll look at the seasons as one aspect, and the seasons all have an energy. Okay, and as the seasons are celebrated through the equinox and the solstices, there are particular energies that are associated with those times of the year, and we honor those. So we look at that in terms of female archetypes. We look at that in terms of what nature is doing. We look at how we can maximize and evolve with our connection to what the season is presenting us with, and also that the season itself brings seasonal medicines which can greatly benefit us. And it's connecting us to the land. Essentially, it's an earth-based spirituality where you are connecting yourself to the rhythms of nature and looking at ways in which to honor that. So through ceremony, I'll honor, you know, for example, when we talk about the shamanic journeying, you know, I always tie it up with a time of year, a specific time of year, normally around the solstice or equinoxes, where there is particular energy for our own self-development, and we can tune into that and maximize on that, and that will have themes that help to strengthen who we are, questions we can ask ourselves, and ceremonial practices which help to enhance our relationship with who we are, and further our inquiry and you know, on an individual level as to who we are, to help us grow. So for me, it's, you know, it's connecting to nature, it's looking at the seasons, it's looking at you know, particular ceremonial practices. And I also, as a ceremonialist, you know, I'm a trained celebrant, so, you know, I do rites of passage for people. So whenever they've gone through a major life change and they want to honor that, and in our societies, often, that it's not all societies that have forgotten how to do this, but in many, particularly Western societies, this has been completely forgotten, that unless someone gets married or dies, you know, that it's bringing a resurgence. It's kind of, I'm very excited about this, because there is a resurgence in ritual and ceremony that honors that. So for example, I do ceremonies for people who, you know, who maybe have got divorced and they're starting a new life, or who, you know, maybe reaching their midlife and want to move on, or maybe they've addressed a major issue that they know that they are, you know, moving into a better place for themselves, and want to honor that. And I also will do, you know, blessings and, you know, a rites of passage that people are more familiar with. But it's enabling that sense of connection to happen. So everything is very meaningful and very intentional. It's driven by intent. So essentially, it's full of ceremony and meaningful practices. And these are not necessarily tied to any particular tradition. What I encourage people to do is to find what makes sense to them. So there could be, you know, for example, with the people that come and that I work with, I will devise particular things they can go away and do, which will honor that particular aspect that they are going through and want to essentially let go of or embrace, depending on what it is. And so going back to the broader picture, we start with the wheel of the year. And so the spring is kind of, you know, it's about new beginnings. You know, the spring equinox is equal distance between night and day, but we're going into the daylight. So we're actually learning, like, okay, what do we want to bring out into the world at that time? The summer is about abundance, so it's connecting to the land and all those beautiful food that's, you know, that the land is producing, but also it's fire. It's the passion for life and for the world and community. So essentially, it's about a big sharing. The autumn equinox is, the days are getting then shorter. So it's about, you know, embracing the magic of the equal distance between night and day. But it's also knowing that we have celebrated the light, and traditionally, you know, thousands of years, we would have been dependent on this for survival, the daylight, you know, as farmers. And so it's still connecting with that. But it's going further into the darkness, which is less about being extrovert and more about looking within. So then you start to be more philosophical and contemplative about your life, and begin to work with the internal processes. So by the time you get to winter, it's all about, you know, really appreciating the daylight that we have, but also looking at doing the inner work. And then there are processes to honor that at every stage. Associated medicines, associated rituals, practices, that kind of thing, healing, yeah.
So who has a question?
Yes.
So okay, go ahead, Deepak. Sorry.
Angie, here in Health in Show, there are many people who do not know about this type of method. So what is actually the method, because it is innovated by you, or it is an old ancient method?
Okay, so are we talking about shamanism generally, or shamanic homeopathy, or the shamanic journeying, which is the meditation practice that I'm going to be talking about? What would you like me to talk about?
I mean to know that from where the practice is coming. It is an ancient practice, or it's innovated by you,
Yeah.
because we really do not know about this method. So
Yeah.
this
So,
really.
So shamanism is it's been practiced for thousands of years in many places in the world, and the original word shaman derives from a Siberian word, but my influences personally come from Native American practices, because that is what I experienced firsthand when I was a teenager. So I was initiated when I was a teenager. It was a very authentic experience for me. And I went into an initiation at the age of 18 when I was in the US with my family, the US family. So the influences, if you like, the most known about influences come from the North America, but also in Siberia as well. But many other places too, because actually when you look at many ancient cultures that were really dependent, we're all dependent on the land now, of course, but that were so much more connected to the land, that there were customs and practices which constantly brought people back to that connection. And honored rites of passage and life itself, the cycle of life and death, and natural medicine. So, but the most known about, or the most maybe become most popular, are amongst that is the Native American practices. So when I experienced it firsthand as a teenager, I went into a purification ceremony called a sweat lodge, held by a Native American man, and that's when I first had that experience, which I felt was so essential. It was very powerful, but like the best things in life, most simple to experience and very easy to access. No mysticism really. It was about connecting on a very rooted earth level to how you were feeling, and to really be able to share that with oneself and with a very closely held group. So that changed a lot of things for me from then.
Thank you so much, and we are ready to know more about it. Please continue. Thank you. Yes.
Pretty, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I wanted to check that a lot of what you're saying, some of this could be individual sessions, and I'm assuming that you do it with a group of individuals too. How does one decide? Because this could be very personal and this could be very intense, isn't it? How do you kind of manage this whole group versus individual dynamism?
Yes. And again, what a great question that is. It's going back to a question we had earlier about can anyone do this? Well, no, because actually yes, it's about integrity. It's about being able to decide. What I do is I make it accessible on a certain level. So the Shamanic Journey group, which is a technique which I find very empowering, and I hold workshops for groups several times a year, is accessible, in that way. If people find that they feel that it's right and I'm a good fit for them to work with, then we can do this on an individual basis. And for that, I offer sessions that would be monthly as a homeopath, but bringing in my other knowledge, or as a fuller program, which I have contact with them on a weekly basis for 12 weeks. And there are workbooks, and there are processes, and there are many things that they get involved with in order to keep them grounded, hold the space, and make sure they have everything they need, and homeopathy. So it's very individual. First of all, we establish what it is, that is that they really want to work on, and what is presenting. And then I take it from there. It's in terms of a group context, we always have a theme. So when I meet with a group, it will be for example, my next group will be about the autumn. So the autumn is really about, in this country, September, not quite autumn yet, but it's getting that way, the autumn equinox, when it's going to be about addressing themes that are to do with gratitude for taking stock of the year. So it's very kind of really looking at, what we can have gratitude about, but also looking at what we want to let go of, so that we can begin to do some deep inner work. And yes, it can be very emotional, and quite a release. So it's not for everyone, but it's also, with the techniques and with the drumming that I do, it's incredibly therapeutic and relaxing. So it's a combination where, yes, you do have that level of release, which is very intense, but then you're very closely held and supported at the same time. Obviously, on a one-to-one basis, it's very different, because you have full attention the whole time, and also that it's really about being easy on yourself, so that you don't feel like you've got to drag yourself through the mud if you're not ready for that or you don't want it. You can just take it a little bit at a time and address things as they come up. Some people feel they're completely ready, and it's a very, group setting. It's very, very lovely, because actually other people are there not to give advice, but just to listen. They don't say anything. They're just there, and they are there witnesses to the sharing, which again is a very unusual situation this day and age. Really look forward to it. And in fact, because of the COVID, we had to do the last one on Zoom, which was a new experience for everyone. Yeah.
So I just want to get a little bit more specific. So what I understand is that you can do the group, and that's kind of general, but then it can go specific based on what you're experiencing. So there's a lot of people today, and we were chatting a little bit about it earlier, who are experiencing trauma. There's death. There's a lot of things going on. So can you just give us a little example of what you would do with a person? You mentioned ceremonies, you mentioned drumming. So what is part of the shamanic thing that you would take somebody through, and then what you would do with homeopathy?
Okay. So when somebody has experienced trauma, the shamanic approach is looking at always coming back to the soul, and it is looking at the soul being fragmented. So pieces of the soul have splintered away, have come apart from that person, and so they have a sense of disconnection with the world. They are not complete or whole, never well since. Right? So this fragmentation of soul, the pieces of soul have gone off in a direction, yeah? And so they have been unable to feel fully present ever since. And it's about beginning to connect them back and beginning to bring the pieces in. And this is done with healing techniques, which are very involved. And in terms of the homeopathy, I look at these pieces of the soul that are fragmented, and where their energy is scattered, how they're presenting in terms of what we would look at with a person in front of us, how are they responding to, how are they engaging, how are they not engaging, what are they saying and not saying, what's their relationship to their experience, and really look deeply into that and analyze that, and within a consultation, and begin to see where the gaps are, begin to see where there is a space where it should be full of persons. So it's actually integrating the ego, integrating the solid person, the sense of self back into that person through homeopathy and through appropriate medicine. And I often use medicines with a lot of caution in this situation, because we want to, start slowly and see how they respond. And often I will really look at ways to nourish and nurture and look at things like personal boundaries, the ways that, people respond to situations ever since, whether they feel, able to be confident in day-to-day situations, and begin to address confidence, begin to address boundaries, that kind of thing. Essentially, coming back to the shamanic perspective, you're looking at soul parts being fragmented and beginning to bring them back in so that person is whole and complete once more.
Does that apply to transgenerational trauma as well?
Yeah, because we stored in the cellular memory, carrying the what I personally call the legacy. It's just a word that I like to use because it helps me understand. It's like a contract or a legacy for me. So being able to address and look at the relationship that individual has, and whether they hold any sense of whether they identify with it, to what extent they identify with it, and to what extent they feel responsible.
Mm-hmm. Legacy sounds far nicer than transgenerational trauma.
So, Angie, you said this is beautiful when you say fragmented and bringing them back to whole, the soul, and the pieces of the soul. But what are the healing techniques? I think, Marilyn, I completely am with you. I'm not. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm happy to, just to carry on talking. I know we wanted to talk about the shamanic journey as well, so I'm just aware that you may want to know about that too. But in terms of the healing techniques within a one-to-one consultation, yes. So you're looking at, you're looking at addressing the cellular memory, essentially. So when you've got the person, essentially you've got the person on the couch, and you're looking at being very, with the training, very sensitized to what they're feeling. You're you're real as an empath. So you work as an empath. So as you work through the body, just very, very lightly, just hovering over the body, you get a sense of the person's energy. And within that, the workings of their body and their organs and the memory or the energy that you can feel during that kind of it's not an examination in terms of it's literally you can't even tell what I'm doing if you're standing next to me, but it's that sense of being able to be acutely aware of what that individual is feeling on a physical level and an emotional level, and then beginning and this is a very traditional shamanic approach, which we have used as shamanic homeopaths. It is used in these modern times, is you begin to instruct the medicines, the homeopathic medicines, into the body as you work. So we give the pilules too, but you also begin to introduce these as you've got the person in front of you. Okay, so the changes, the subtle changes in their relationship to it, the relationship to the medicines, being introduced to that, is done in a very delicate, deliberate way. So you can feel what that person is needing, pretty much as you're working, as you're working on them. So there is a lying down on the couch, a bit. But when I work with people remotely, because now, in these times, sort of not being able to see people face to face, you get a sense of how the person is presenting. And the way that I do this is I have a technique which I bring in, which is to do with the cellular memory and clearing cellular memory. And I do this through a series of charts that I work through to whittle down what it is that they're actually going through. So it's a slightly different approach, but it's one that I've incorporated because I am not able to have everybody come to me at the moment. In terms of the traditional shamanic approach, it's literally looking at what ails them the most, what's going on in there, and whereabouts it is in the body, where with the body's intelligence and the intelligence of the organs. We also have learned a lot you know, with the training I had, which is really lovely, looking at the 5 elements, traditional Chinese medicine. So looking at the sensations and the feelings that each of the organs have, and what organs are paired with. So looking at whether one aspect of the body is overcompensating for another, and then treating both organs. And that can be done beautifully with the homeopathic medicine. But while they're on the couch, you're looking to rebalance them as much as they can, and begin to introduce the medicines while they're with you. And it's really lovely because you become very in tune. And the only way that I can really relate to it, if a listener was kind of thinking, well, what that's a bit unusual, is I work quite closely with osteopaths, so I've got a very good colleague who's a cranial osteopath, and watching her work in a very sensitive way, she can be working and I can be telling her, I take my kids to her, and she can be working and I'll say, right, yeah, this is what's happening in the body, because you become very, very sensitized. But then she has that level of sensitivity. So although it's not shamanism, or described as that, the level of sensitivity it takes, is that of a cranial osteopath, say, as to if I was going to make any kind of comparison, that would probably be the closest that I can come to.
This is extraordinary. And I'm like jumping in. I want to jump into my computer and hug you. There are a couple of questions there is a question on the chat that I want to address. And then I know you wanted to go into the journey, or if anybody else had any questions. Yeah, this is all the journey. And if we have to invite you back, we will. I mean, let's just do it. It's been fabulous. So here's a question. Say that again?
Yes, please, straight away.
Oh yeah, we have to. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here's a question on the chat. I know there is an upsurge of shamanic rituals with Ayahuasca, and I may not, and other hallucinogens. What are your thoughts?
I would like to say this is a very personal reply, but I'm very boundaried as a practitioner. I feel that with patients that come to us, what they really appreciate is knowing where they stand. And Amazonian herbs that have traditionally only been used by very wise, learned people of that land, I think belong with those wise, learned people of that land. And that it's become very trendy and out of context. So you can go on a weekend and have this life-changing experience, because it is a very powerful experience to have, no doubt about it. But it's not for everyone. It was never meant to be on on everyone's bucket list. It's and also that like with many things that we do in the West, it strips the Amazon of precious resources. So my feelings about it that we have ayahuasca in homeopathic medicine, okay? And this is incredibly powerful medicine. It is not the sort of powerful medicine that I would give every patient. You have to choose your moment, and it is very, very challenging on a personal level. And so it's all about integrity. If you look at why people are going for this stuff, it's partly, in my, again, personal opinion, because we have it all homeopathically. There's no need to go and uproot the Amazon. It's also about context. So that person needs to have that medicine and be matched with that medicine at that particular time. If it's not the time, it's not the right thing to do. Plus, also, I can't think of anything I'd like to do less than be in a room full of people I've never met and be completely immersed in a process which leaves me very open and vulnerable, without knowing that the person holding the space is the right shaman or medicine person who is going to be looking out for my best interests. So it's about being very careful about the context and situation. It's serious stuff. So I feel saddened that this has become very trendy. To be honest with you, I feel a real sadness about it, because it's also for me another way that Westerners have gone in and cherry-picked what they want from a different culture and not necessarily putting anything back into it. It's parasitic, I think, the way that people behave. So for me, I'm very cautious about these things. And there is a part of shamanism that's called core shamanism, where you don't take hallucinogens, and in fact, with the sensitivity that we come to experience. The last thing I wanted to say was that these things are very intense on a physical level. And I think that what it also encourages, that people don't seem to be able to have a spiritual experience unless they've been pummeled, and unless they've been really kind of, they feel it, because they have losing the inability to relate to things on a very sensitive, subtle level. So for example, if you spent your whole life on a diet of sugar, you won't be able to taste fruit and see how sweet it really is. But if you took yourself off sugar for a month, and then you taste a raspberry, the subtle textures become much more alive. And it's the same with herbal medicine. You become, if you give up caffeine for a month, and then you take a herb and chew it in your mouth, you see how all the flavors and tastes and messages go to you, and it's much more subtle. So people are growing away from that so much that they feel like they need these experiences which are incredibly intense. But actually, I was talking about this with somebody not that long ago, that somebody who'd done a lot of these things, I said, have you ever thought about, in homeopathy, pure vibration, how the message of pure, the messages that the medicines have got such an impact, that in order to understand ourselves better, what about just putting that to one side for a bit and connecting with our own innate ability to understand on a much deeper level? Because I think that is far more empowering.
Brilliant. Thank you for that clarification.
I have one question, but I don't know if we have enough time and you want to talk about shamanic journey, but I'll leave it to you. Are there any similarities or differences? I mean, how would you weigh this with past life regression, hypnosis, and a shamanic process? I mean, are there any overlaps or?
I think that there are in modern, modern psychology, you're looking at accessing different parts of the brain. In shamanism, there's no distinction, because the brain is so much of it, and so much of it is unexplored, that it is seen as an opportunity, as a gateway into exploring the self more fully. And so it's not that there isn't a place for this. They're all wonderful, in their own way, but that actually it's also about some things that are actually some things that do bring it all together in quite a straightforward way, and that's looking at how we open up and respond in a meditative space and a meditative situation. So as we respond, we begin to open up, and the way that we accept messages coming into the body, so through hypnosis, for example, so for example, a simple technique, if you count, if you count from 100 back to, down to 1, through this time, you will be actually beginning to relax and begin to meditate. That opens you up in order to receive in a calm state. Okay, so it's looking at the, you know, it's looking at ways in which we can access that information from an alpha, the alpha state, the state that we reach in meditation. So we need to be in the state in order to relax enough to have for these things to have an impact. And I think that through many techniques, unless you have that, you're not going to get very far. So although they're all called different things, and they all do something different, and it depends what you resonate with at the time, because it's also about the practitioner. You know, it could be that, you know, it's the person, you know, it's the person. You're like, you know, actually, I don't care what it's called. I'm going to come and see you, you know. that it's about that. But they need to assist and support you to get to that place, which is why the healing aspect is such a joy, you know, with the work I do, because actually they get, and once you relax, you know what happens with the nervous system, you know, what happens with the potential for healing is greatly increased. You know, so any opportunity or any therapy which has that built in is going to enable that person to access a level of openness which will allow that particular therapy or modality to work in a very profound way. So there is, yeah. And I think that with past lives, it's very interesting, because whilst I do work with this, and I think it's very, you know, it is important, people can get very hung up about things. So I tend to, you know, when I do work with it, I try not to put too much emphasis, because people can also get very attached to, you know, or begin to identify very closely and internalize that identity. So it can be a bit counterproductive at times. And also that, quite importantly, I feel it puts the practitioner in a place of incredible power. And I feel that the whole point is to help that person empower themselves. So actually, it's a little bit, you know, it's like you have to have integrity around it when you're working, so that you know, and you pick and choose how you you know, you introduce that individual because of how they may respond.
Beautifully said, Angie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So do you want to talk about the shamanic journey and what it is all about?
I would love to just, you know, introduce our listeners a little bit to it. It's basically, it's a technique that I use with my groups, but I also, you know, do some work with individuals on this. But as a group, it works very powerfully. You know, the collective consciousness, the power of any group meditating is very beautiful to experience. And it's also because the key thing for me with this is that you find your own answers. So it's not about, you know, going to somebody and asking for advice. It's actually about being quite confrontational with oneself and becoming reliant on what works for us as individuals. You know, and this is, I find, incredible in terms of, you know, how people grow. So the process is actually with the beat of a drum, which is 3 beats per second. I don't know how much sound is going to, what's the sound is going to be like on our video, but I'm just going to show you what I mean. So this is a shamanic drum. It was made for me. And 3 beats per second is like that. Okay, so that carries on for quite a long time. What that 3 beats per second does is help you to access the alpha state that I was just referring to. You go through a process in order to get there. You go through something called non-ordinary reality. You have 3 different realms or 3 different worlds. You normally access the lower world, and you meet with a guide, or in shamanism traditionally, a power animal. And this is an aspect of you. This is an aspect of qualities that you need in your life in order to grow. So an animal personifies, has particular attributes which you are needing. And so nature is there, again, helping us. So certain animals will be, you know, particularly industrious or confident, or, you know, all sorts of things, right? And so you meet, and this happens all through this very fast drum beat. And with that, there is this engagement with the sound therapy. So that you know, it's about looking at how the nervous system is calmed in order to, you know, you know, talking about the sort of the benefits, really, sort of, you know, alleviating, you know, strong emotions like anxiety and stress and that kind of thing. So it really calms you down. Okay, so because it's got such a profound effect, it also has this very grounding quality where you begin to really feel more solid and more present. So an example of this is, for example, afterwards, and I've been doing this for years, you know, an example is people find shapes and colors brighter and more vivid, and they find that they are able to be more focused. And this is because their body isn't going crazy anymore. It's actually calming down. So the benefit of it is quite, you know, is quite wonderful. So it has this profound effect, and it strengthens the physical relations of your body as well. So the other thing that it does is, it's with sound therapy, it has been studied that it increases serotonin. So for example, with relaxation, with breathing, with sleep, it will have a positive impact on that. So for example, drumming itself has been used a lot with people in recovery from substance misuse, for example, you know, or sometimes it's even been taken into prisons, and, you know, so it has got, you know, and for me, you know, being able to help people in this way where they are, you know, accessing this level of calm is, you know, it's just, you know, it's just fantastic. So what happens is, we go with a specific question, and people travel and access this lower realm, and this question is always relevant to the bigger theme we're experiencing. So in the autumn, it will be, you know, something like, you know, what is it that I need to let go of? So they'll take that question with them. Now, seasoned journey people will be able to connect, and what happens is things are going so quickly for them that it happens all spontaneously. The one thing I can liken it to is Alice in Wonderland, down the rabbit hole, how she has all these adventures, yeah, and she's talking to, you know, animals that talk back, and, you know, all of that. Well, that is all possible there in this realm of consciousness, or they wouldn't call it consciousness in, you know, in ancient times, but, you know, this is, you know, probably more closely what we relate it to. And there we are addressing aspects of self where we get that information and we bring it back. So one of the biggest challenges isn't doing this process and getting the question. One of the biggest challenges is that people don't believe that they're doing it. So they, you know, when people come once or twice, it doesn't always happen for them. So the process is really about relaxing and trusting in the process, and that's all they can access at that time, and that's good. But with time, they overcome this mental arguments about, is it happening? Am I making it up? You know, is it all something I want to fabricate? You know, because we don't trust ourselves enough. So part of the joy in holding these groups is that actually it's about helping people to learn to trust themselves, because I'm not telling them what to think or what to find. I'm literally holding the space, and then I hold it for them afterwards and give the context and, you know, provide that process for them. It's about the person really engaging with finding what really resonates on a gut level. So if you know that you can have a level of trust and you can trust your own gut, when you take that out into the world and you know what trusting your gut feels like, the quality of decisions that you're going to make on a daily level, day-to-day basis, is going to be supportive of the life you want to create and the life that is most relevant and nourishing for you. So that is why it's so satisfying for me. And then the mental arguments do subside, you know, after a while. But it's sometimes the biggest hurdle for people is actually overcoming skepticism about what they're going through, because somebody isn't telling them what to think. And they're so used to that through social media, through, you know, all these the dominant world paradigm as we have it. So yeah.
So this is outstanding. And I know that I, along with everybody else, can probably go on and on and on and on. But we want to, we're almost out of time, but we certainly want to leave people with wanting more, is how I always look at things. But Uta, did you have something you wanted to add at this point?
Well, I wanted to tell Angie to tell us, if people want to reach out to her, where can they find her?
Okay, thank you so much. I am UK based, but with the wonders of Zoom, etc., Skype, and all that, we're all in. Feel like we're all in the same room right now. So please do feel free. I have a website. It is angielitvinoff.com. And then I also have an Instagram, Angie the Medicine Woman. So they're welcome to contact me with any questions as well. It would be a pleasure. And yes, and Angie Litvinoff, angielitvinoff.com has got lots of information on there about the work that I do with people. So thank you.
And I'm going to reach out to you about the substance thing. But that's going to be a different thing, because I'm doing an opioid summit. So I want to talk to you about that. Anybody else have anything to ask, question, talk about, anything?
Yes. Angie, this is really wonderful session, and wonderful to know about this method, shamanic. And next time we want to hear that what is the really connection and what is the cases you are handling with this method and the homeopathy, and what you feel if the homeopathy and shamanic method will work together, then many things will be cured very easily and in a shortest time, as Dr. Henneman said. So this is wonderful show. We need more. We need more from your side and need to know more about this method. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marilyn, Deepak, and Uta, so much. It's been amazing to be with you all. Thank you so much.
The pleasure was all ours.
Fantastic
Thank
to
you
have
so
you.
much.
Yes.
It was amazing. Amazing. I mean, I'm ready to take everything you have. So, Uta, Deepak, do you want to talk about our website and things that we have coming up?
So I think for all of you out there, you can reach out to homeopathyworldcommunity.com. Our website is up and running, and we are waiting for all of you to, all of you who want to know about homeopathy, want to learn about homeopathy, want to learn about alternative therapies and medicines, or if you're a practitioner, please welcome, be a member and join us. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, Homeopathy World Community. Just look for that and you'll find one of us there waiting for you.
We are here on all networks online. So you just search Homeopathic World Community and you get it on every platform. So we are welcome you if you join the Homeopathic World Community. Thank you.
And I just want to reach out and say that we have a wonderful webinar coming up with the wonderful Rebecca Liston, who will be looking into maintaining and building your practice in times as we are in at the moment. So that promises to be very interesting. We will announce it across our social media and on the website. So do go and check those out, and then you will get to know more about it and when it's on, at what time and what date. Thank you very much. Thank you, Angie.
I just want to add something to what Uta just said. So we have all kinds of things going on. We have things for the homeopath, the practitioner. We have things for the general public. We have all kinds of things. So just check us out, because we are your place. We are your place to learn, to heal, to grow, to teach. We are your place. So any final words, anybody? Amnon? Anybody? All right. We love you all. Thanks so much for being here, and we will see you next month for this, but we will see you soon for other things. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You, Angie, once again.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.